You are listening to Cinema Rex. It's an Iranian film podcast, episode 58, Bahram, Beyzaie's The Ballad of Tara, Cherikeye Tara. Happy New Year, Farhan.
Happy New Year, Kaveh. How's your Yalda?
Yalda was good. I spent time with friends and allies. Eating melons.
What friends were these?
Oh, you don't know them. درود بر شما دوستان عزیز. This is a Cinema Rex podcast where we talk all things Iranian film, cinema, music, literature, onions, melons. I'm Kaveh Mohebi.
And I'm Farhan Moradi.
Welcome to a brand new year, brand new season. Actually, not a new season. We haven't done seasons, but it's a brand new year.
Yeah, we talked about doing seasons, and then we never did it.
Yeah, I feel like if we did seasons, we'd have to break up the seasons thematically, and I don't have the patience to do that.
I don't even know how to do it. Like our choices are so like varied that I wouldn't even know how to.
Yeah, we'd have to think of like this season we're gonna do like all female Iranian directors, and we do like 10 of those or something in a row.
Right.
Why did we decide to do Bahram Beyzaie episode for the start of the year, Farhan?
Unfortunately, Bahram Beyzaie, the master of Iranian cinema, passed away, and on his birthday,
Which in itself is a really cool feat. I mean, it's pretty hard to do.
Yeah, December 26th.
He was 87 years old, so like a life long lived, and a very, very full life, as one can assume, as his life was full of art and passion for the work that he did, and he taught for many years in California. So I mean, he went from being an artist to a master to a teacher, which is like, I don't know, the entire perfect arc for a Jedi. So I'm sure artists like it too.
Yeah.
And he's going to leave a massive void in the pantheon of Iranian cinema. And I mean, you look around Instagram or social media in general, like there's not a single person that has a negative thing to say about that.
Yeah.
This man.
There's two great quotes about Beyzaie that you can find them on his Wikipedia page. One's from Scorsese, and he says about Beyzaie, you can feel Beyzaie's background in Persian literature, theater, and poetry.
Yeah.
Beyzaie never received the support that he deserved from the government of his home country.
Right. That's an understatement.
Yeah. Well, then this one I really like. This one's from Hamid Dawashi.
Oh, I have his book, and I have a lot of quotes from him
Do you have this one?
for today's episode. No, I don't have quotes about his life. I have quotes about the movie we're going to do.
Okay. He says, some people in our old country and enduring culture assume iconic significance for reasons beyond our crooked measures. Beyzaie is one of them. When the annals of our contemporary history are written, Beyzaie will have the same significance as Hafez.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
What a sentiment. Well, and so, I mean, we didn't really have Beyzaie top of our list in terms of things we would do right away, but I feel like I recommended it because it just seemed timely and significant. You know, as we mentioned, we don't really put that much thought. We did at the beginning of our podcast try to think of like planning out every episode we do week by week, but I think very shortly after that,
sometimes it's vibes.
Meritry was murdered and passed away, and we were like, well, we should do a Meritry episode. And then we realized that it's kind of probably better just to kind of go with, like when Panahi is in the news, then all of a sudden we think of doing a Panahi film. So I like it better this way, working off the heels of what's relevant and current.
Yeah. Which is funny because I feel like a lot of podcasts will like do that intentionally to like siphon off, what's it called, the algorithm or whatever. But like you and I didn't do it for algorithm reasons.
No,
it felt
just
very
makes
organic.
Yeah, it makes for interesting podcasts if it's more about what's happening.
Yeah.
Talk about what we're doing today, and then I'll do a plot summary.
We're doing Ballad of Tara. Do you have the Persian title?
Cherikeye Tara. Cherikeye Tara.
Which actually translates directly to Tara the gorilla. Like gorilla, like a freedom fighter.
Okay. I have something else completely different about that from Hamid Dawashi.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. What does he say?
Well, he doesn't say that she's a gorilla.
This is like a translation I found online. This is a very Khafan word for me.
I'll get into that when we talk about behind the scenes or deeper analysis.
Okay.
The choice of that title is like apparently has some significance and meaning. Okay. Plot summary for Ballad of Tara. Tara, a young and beautiful widow, returns with her 2 children to her village. On her way home, she finds out that her grandfather has passed away. She begins to bequeath her grandfather's belongings among her neighbors, but there remains an old sword that no one wants to accept. One day on the road, she meets an old warrior who claims to have time traveled from the past in order to take the old sword back and return it to his community. Tara finally submits the sword to him, but he comes back saying that he has fallen in love with her. And so begins the journey of Tara and the many suitors who are after her hand for love. It has 0 Rotten Tomato score and 0 audience score because...
As in it doesn't have one, not that it's 0%.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I wrote 0 RT and 0 audience. Yeah, sorry. It does not have one. It wasn't because of, poor ratings. So I ask you, Farhan June. I already feel, I get a sense, but I want to know how you feel about Ballad of Tara.
What do you think?
Okay, how about I start? Let me start.
Okay.
Here's what I think. I found this film very confounding and difficult to sit through. And it wasn't until I did the research, as a lot of listeners might know, I do a lot of the front-loading research, as you do as well, but I have all the text in the books,
have, like,
and every one of these feels like an essay.
Text.
And it wasn't until I started reading that stuff that I fully was like, oh, I really find this way more interesting. But I had to read through like 7 different chapters through 4 different books to actually start understanding it. Because one of the greatest criticisms against Beyzaie, and I'll get to this too, is it's very, very impermeable or unpenetrable for the common audience member. And there's a lot of reasons for this, going back to stuff like Beyzaie plays, which is this old traditional Iranian play that he was absolutely fascinated with and loved. And he kind of wanted to bring that. And, he wanted to make high art. And a lot of what I kept thinking about was our Stranger in the Fog podcast. When we did that, there's 2 strands of issues with what we're doing here when we do this podcast. The copy of the film we have that we watch is not great. Yeah. It's not ideal. And with Stranger in the Fog, I remember watching the original version of that we had. It was very low quality and very impermeable. Once we got the great, beautiful, restored 4K edition of that film that we screened in LA, I was like, this film deserves this and needs this. Because now I can, first of all, see the cinematic beauty and language of what's happening. But on top of that, the other angle is it really, really helps to understand some of the symbolic mythology that he's playing here in his films. Yeah. And if you don't know those, if you're not carrying that equipment with you, you're just watching a low quality film that isn't plot driven necessarily. It's a very symbolic film.
Yeah.
And one of the things I thought about was like Japanese, I think it's called kabuki theater,
yeah.
Which is like those, like this, it's like very beautiful costumes, very symbolic sort of dance mixed with like ballet, mixed with like high art, samurai stories, like legends of the past. If Beyzaie is like our kabuki, this feels like a lot of Beyzaie's films when he does this type of thing, which is very similar to Stranger in the Fog. This is a mix of like Tarkovsky films mixed with Japanese or Chinese theater. You know what I mean? It's like he's combining these elements.
I can see it. I was even thinking like it felt like Terrence Malick crossed with like Peter Jackson, weirdly.
Yeah. Except I go back to like the theater language of it. It's just so...
Yeah.
Do you remember when we saw Strange in the Fog? It's so many beautiful costumes, so much color, so much like choreography going into
the choreography.
Every like fight scene is a metaphor for the old mythologies of Iranian battles.
Unlike a lot of theater directors, where a lot of times when a theater director makes a film, I watch it and one of my main critiques is I'm like, this literally just plays like a theater play.
Yeah.
Whereas I find that Beyzaie does something with the film medium that you cannot really do with theater.
Well, why don't you tell me then? So my TLDR of this is I ended up liking the film, but it wasn't until I started really researching what the symbolism meant in a lot of what was happening. And I was like, oh, this is
yeah.
And we'll get to that stuff, obviously, as we talk about our reactions and deeper analysis. But it took me a journey to get to a point where
trust
I
enjoyed
this film.
There will be an extensive Farhan's question corner for this episode.
Okay, great. How do you feel? What do you feel about how do you feel about the film? Having not had contact with the metatextual academic research behind the films.
I mean, I was captivated by world of story and the visual language of the film. The first note that I made is that this movie is in desperate need of a remaster.
Yeah.
Not just because the quality of what we watched isn't great, but also because it's just as high up there with something like Dead End or Tall Shadows of the Wind.
Yeah.
This is a top contender with those two for an Iranian film that is in desperate need of a remaster.
Yeah.
You can tell the cinematography is really nice. It also doesn't help that the language in the film is very academic and classical.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like they're speaking Shakespearean English the way that they're speaking.
Yeah.
Which plays in nicely with the fantasy world. The reason that I'm saying it doesn't help is just because I'm not as familiar with that language, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the subtitles that we had were like there's French subtitles baked in, and then the English subtitles are on top. And so it's like I speak all three languages, so my brain is constantly trying to like focus on just one thing that's being said. Or
I didn't have English subtitles on mine.
Oh, you didn't?
No, and I wish I did at times. I was like, my French isn't as good as yours, and it's a little bit higher than the average Canadian. But at times I'd read the French to try to understand the Persian.
Yeah.
And then when I did understand the French, I was typing in I'd pause the film, type the French in Google Translate to understand the English, to understand the French, to understand the Farsi.
No, mine was like, it was confusing for me more than anything to have all three like in front of my face. My brain was constantly like switching between the three.
Yeah.
But like, it's a straightforward enough story that like, even if you're missing a couple words here and there, it carries.
Yeah. Here's the thing too, like in my kind of breakdown of what this film does and doesn't do is this film is it's less motivated by plot and more by an internal emotional journey for Tara.
Yeah, vibes.
It's all about vibes. But I think one thing that can be easily broken down to, and I kind of got this towards the end, is this is sort of a love triangle story, like in its most fundamental, there's that whole thing of like, there are only 7 basic storylines in writing and literature. In all of literature, there's like 7 basic plots.
Yeah.
And one of them is the love triangle. That like encapsulates a lot of story. And I feel like you could argue that this is just like 2 or 3 men in love with one woman.
I would even argue that it's like one of the points in that triangle is like all the suitors in the town. Because it's not just one guy who's trying to get her in the town. We see at least 3 other guys in the town.
And due to the quality of the film, which goes back to that, is I spent a large part of the film thinking 2 of the guys was one guy. Because they looked alike.
Yeah.
The one there's the brother-in-law who loves her.
And there's
Tara,
the guy
right?
who buys
because her husband is
her milk or something.
Yeah. He's he's got a thick handlebar mustache type thing. But then there's another man who's constantly surrounded by the Islamic women, right? They're covering their faces and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a different man, correct? He's the one who leaves eventually. And he's also in love with her, but they have the exact same mustache. And in a lower quality film, I thought they were the same person because of the quality of the film. Then of course there's the historical figure, the time traveler.
Well, okay.
Then like there's the
you keep calling this guy a time traveler. I think he's a ghost. And I've like, part of why I wanted to like go back over the film this morning was I was like looking for more evidence to suggest that he's a ghost and not a time traveler. And I've brought receipts.
I mean, I don't disagree that he's a ghost. I just think that it's so symbolic that it's irrelevant, which I don't think there's a scene in the film where this guy stepped into a DeLorean and traveled and set the clocks and coordinates to come see this guy. Like, he didn't step into a literal time machine, but he's a vestibule of the past. Vestibule, he's a vestige of the past.
He's also like,
right? Like whether or not you want
lit up with arrows. Like his like back is just like filled with arrows.
Yeah.
He's constantly bleeding from his face.
Yeah.
He talks about how him and all the dead soldiers, their graves have been emptied. We see them all rise from the dead out of the ocean.
Yeah.
He says that he can't be revived. He's a ghost, 100%. He's got to be a ghost.
Yeah, but he does say that he's a visitor from the past.
Yes.
From forgotten. So in that sense, I don't think of it as like he stepped into a Doctor Who-esque time machine and got here. I just think he's like a visitor from another time, whether he's a ghost or not. Yeah.
There's a lot of people online who describe him as a time traveler.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing a compilation of a lot of stuff I was reading online.
I just personally don't think.
The other thing that's a more relevant, there's also another ghost that is very interesting, is because she's showed up and it's her grandfather that's passed away, right? Is it her grandfather or the children's grandfather?
That was part of my Farhan's question corner.
Well, because I found in the text, some of the people who wrote about this film keep switching it between the two as well.
Her husband is also dead.
But
that's why I'm confused.
Yeah, she's returning from her husband having passed away. She was either with him when he passed away in another village or whatever. And she's returning home, having just recently mourned her husband. And she's getting news quite abruptly that they say your grandfather has passed away. So, like, for lack of an argument, let's just say it's her grandfather.
Yeah.
Because that's what they constantly say, and that's what half the text out there says.
Yeah.
She then has to, like, donate his stuff and belongings. But there's a really interesting part where like she's sitting by his grave talking to him, and you just see this old man appear from the shadows behind. And the first time he shows up, he's just standing there watching, and then the scene ends. She doesn't acknowledge him. The man doesn't say any lines. He's just there. So then later on in scenes, that grandfather actually starts speaking to her. So there is this also literal like present day ghost in her grandfather who like communicates with her when she's at his grave. And I just like those kind of moments where like when we did our episode on Bashu, the Little Stranger, Ruzba had described this film as a horror story or a horror film. I don't even think it would go that much. There are moments that are eerie and like a little bit like in a really cool mythological way, like creepy, eerie ghost story, campfire ghost story elements to it. But I don't even think this is as much horror as Tall Shadows of the Wind.
Yeah, oh no,
I think
definitely not.
this fits into like almost like more like
yeah.
mythology.
It feels like fantasy.
But I like those. Those are the things I liked about the film.
It reminded me a lot of the ghosts in Return of the King. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
The like Army of the Dead. Like this almost feels like
yeah.
our version of the Army of the Dead.
Yeah.
But instead of and there's even like that mythology around the sword, right? It's like the sword of their commander, blah blah blah, all this stuff. With the Army of the Dead and Lord of the Rings, it's the Isildur's sword or not Isildur, Elendil's sword that gets reforged and it's able to like help reclaim their oath, etc., etc. Like very reminiscent.
These always go back to the same epic mythologies of like even like King Arthur's sword, and it's like you could Tolkien was borrowing from those things too, like one ring to rule them all, but instead of a sword, you know what I mean? It's always kind of like these devices, which probably like these stories traveled throughout the globe centuries ago, and they're all kind of like remixing on each other's. But what I like about this, especially in the first act, is this man, this time traveler / ghost has arrived and says, I need to return this sword to my people, and until then I can't rest. And she has told her quite honestly, I think I've thrown it away, like because she did try to hand it off to some neighbors, and then the next day the neighbor returns it. Like everyone feels like the sword is haunted or cursed or whatever. Nobody wants the sword, so she's thrown it away. But then, as serendipity or fate has it, as she's traveling one day, her wheelbarrow gets stuck in the mud, and she tries to get the wheelbarrow, the thing that the thing that the oxes or the horses pull, with carriage, and right where she's gotten stuck in the mud, she sees the sword back there in the mud. Like the sword is always finding its way back to her, which is like this interesting, like, fantastical element to the story.
Very reminiscent of the sickle from Stranger in the Fog.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I thought these films were a little too similar. It almost seemed like this was the C plot in Stranger in the Fog that he didn't have time to put in this film. And
it's like a cinematic, it's the Beyzaie cinematic universe, right? Where like, it's almost like the Army of the Dead comes from the same time as Stranger in the Fog.
Yeah. Well, and the villages look like aesthetically like they might be the same place. Yeah, they're
both beside the ocean.
Yeah. It's strange. Because of how much I like Stranger in the Fog, and because of how much I love other Beyzaie's other works, I loved Bashu, I love Downpour. I feel hesitant to disparage this film, but I wish I could see a better quality version of this film. Is all I can really say, because some things were really lost. But again, like you were saying, it's almost Shakespearean. It's overly dramatic, the story. I also found the dubbing particularly tough to, like, not the dubbing, but when they literally do the Iranian Farsi language sound recording later on in the studio.
Yeah. Do you know, by the way, if that's Manouchehr Farid's voice? Because he sounds totally different in this movie than every other movie I've seen him in.
I didn't recognize his voice sounding different.
You know what's funny, though?
He's always...
I've always felt like Manouchehr Farid was putting on a voice in every movie he's been in. Like, he sounds like a macho man, like the way that he talks.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, oh, this guy's putting on a voice. Then eventually I'm like, oh, maybe that is just his voice. But then in this movie, he sounds totally different from those other ones. But weirdly, his voice here fits him way better than all the other ones. So part of Farhan's question corner.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't recognize his voice sounding that different, but I just feel like when I've seen the Manouchehr Farid filmography, it spans such a long period of his life.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen him as a young man in films. I've seen him as an old man in films.
Yeah.
So depending on, your voice changes. This guy was in movies for like 4 decades, pretty much. maybe more.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I
I
don't know.
feel like I just chalk it up to his voice changing over the years.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was in
it
a
might
film in
be. But
2015.
yeah, yeah, I think is that the is that the one where he plays like a guy who runs an acting studio? It's like an Iranian indie film.
I don't know. It's a short film in 2015
Yeah,
called
it's like
Seymour.
yeah, that's it. It's like 25
Yeah.
minutes
Okay.
long.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he did that, and then he's from between 1966 and 2015, he was making films.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, and I really like him. I like seeing him in everything. Manager Farid is like legitimately one of the greatest Iranian actors of that period. He like I find him so engrossing in the scenes he's in. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
One thing I really liked about Tara's character,
Uh-huh.
Susan Taslimi, I found that especially the first act, she's kind of a flirt too, which you don't see in a lot of like. Beyzaie writes really strong female Iranian characters.
Yeah.
Like female characters in his stories are really strong. At one point, he like hands one of the men who's in love with her, like he's like a suitor. He just wants her hand in marriage, and she's giving out her grandfather's like possessions, and she gives him rather a mirror, and he comes back and he's like wants her hand in marriage, and he's like, you gave me a mirror and all I see in it is you, which is like a very sweet romantic line that he says to her, and her response is, that's why I gave it to you. It's like flirty. It's like
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah,
flirty.
yeah, yeah.
She's kind of like, she's not like, oh, tee hee hee hee. She's just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
kind of flirts back, and she's kind of this strong-willed woman who she's not intimidated by all these men. She knows when to like push them away and draw them in.
yeah.
It's this push and pull that I really liked in her character.
Yeah. On the topic of flirtation and love, did you find that the soldier falling in love with her was like sudden and like kind of out of nowhere? Because he doesn't just say like, "Oh, I think you're captivating" or whatever. He's like immediately like, "I'm in love with you." I was like,
Yeah,
"Whoa!"
I mean, I think it's sudden, but I don't even bat an eye at it anymore because it's so like a trope of these sort of. I feel like Stranger in the Fog had
Especially in
things like
his
that too.
movies,
Yeah, it's just I think it comes from Tazia plays where
probably.
the idea is like they kind of get to the love faster than the courtship because I think to a certain extent Tazia plays were like also quite religious plays that
Yeah,
they'd put in and they'd play them in the street. So a lot of it wasn't about the courtship and like teasing and flirting stuff. It was more like, well, if you love this person, you want to marry them because that's like the most holy way to kind of express love and romance. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's not about the foreplay. It's
Yeah.
about the marriage. But so I don't even bat an eye at those things.
Even Downpour, Stranger in the Fog, like these are all his movies where a male character will just
Yeah,
like
yeah, exactly.
immediately fall in love with a
Yeah,
female
yeah.
character as soon as they see them, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean that's all the more reason why I wasn't shocked by it. This is a really funny moment where at the end she wants to bring the soldier back, and she wants to the guy disappears, and she's like, come back to me, come back to me. And she still has unfinished questions and stuff. And do you
Wait,
remember what
which
she
time?
does to
Which
try
time? Because
towards
I
the
feel like
end?
every time he leaves, she's like, "Wait, come back."
Yeah, it's the one of the last ones. I'll just tell you, jump ahead. Her tactic to get the guy to come back is to rip off her clothes, and she flashes the woods.
Oh yeah.
I thought I wrote, damn, that was a denouement I was not expecting.
Yeah. There's a. I feel like this is almost like a thing in Beyzaie movies. There's a few of his movies now where he has women like rip open their
Oh
shirt or
yeah,
part of
you're
their
right.
clothes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And in Stranger in the Fog, it's the old lady who does it.
yeah. You're right.
I feel like not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but just in terms of like deeper analysis, I find that might play a little bit into like emancipation of women and
Yeah,
like
that totally could. Well, we could jump ahead to the next categories because a lot of the stuff I want to say I want to unpack through a critical eye. So let's do that.
on topic of Beyzaie tropes. There's also a lot of like random screaming in the film. I noticed, similar to Stranger in the Fog, where people will all of a
Right?
sudden
Yeah,
just be
yeah,
like, ah.
yeah, yeah.
And then the other thing I wrote is that you have this one female character who is either a widow or a single mother who's being like pined after by all the men in the village. And in the case of this movie, she's like ignoring all of them and going after a
Yeah,
ghost,
yeah.
but always going after the stranger, the the stranger who's come out of nowhere.
Always the stranger, never the fog.
Yeah.
Okay, what should we go to? Should we go to behind the scenes trivia? Yeah, I only have two things. We did a little history back behind on Beyzaie on a previous podcast, so I just want to take a moment to talk about Suzanne Taslimi. Suzanne. This was her first film. This is her film debut, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Well, that's according to an IMDb lazy trivia that I did.
Oh, that's crazy.
She's good in it for her first film.
Yeah, very good.
I'm going to read this from Hamid Nafisi's History of Iranian Cinema. Suzanne Taslimi, an accomplished and versatile actress, was forced to leave the country because of the impediments the government placed in her professional life. In 1980, she was expelled from the City Theater after she wrote a letter objecting to a reduction in actors' pay and to forced Islamicization of the theater, which required, amongst other things, the use of revolutionary stories, topics, and characters. Ones who were more stereotypes than individuals with subjectivity. The two revolutionary era movies she made with the director Bahram Beyzaie, Ballad of Tara and Death of Yazdegard, were both banned permanently. They are still banned in Iran to this day. While the screening of two later films she made with Beyzaie, Bashu the Little Stranger and Maybe Another Time, Shayad Vakti Digar.
Oh, Roosevelt loves that movie.
What's that?
Roosevelt loves that movie.
Encountered many difficulties with the censors. Finally, when Farabi Cinema Foundation authorities viewed some of the preliminary rushes of Ali Zehkhan's movie Madyan, in which Taslimi had starred, they objected to her colorful costumes and her powerful presence and penetrating eyes, adding, "This woman has become too powerful. She has become dominant." Her physical beauty, which magnified her presence, proved to be an additional drawback. The authorities assigned a minder to monitor her acting and costumes during subsequent filming. That's all I have for behind the scenes trivia for today's episode.
I want to also mention, just like very quickly for behind the scenes, there's a lot of mythology in Iran around different magical swords.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a notable one in Iran is a sword called Zolfiqar, which is the sword of Ali, who's like a prominent Islamic figure and imam in Islam. And a lot of times for different like Islamic festivals and stuff, they would do these like plays in towns and in villages and stuff, and they'd usually bring out the sword and like do all this stuff. Also, I wanted to point out, obviously, Beyzaie grew up in a Baha'i family. In the Baha'i faith, there's also a prominent sword, the sword of Mullah Hussein. And then, obviously, we mentioned other cultures, like there's in Britain, there's Excalibur, and but this whole thing with just like prominent swords, I think, was just worth mentioning some of them. That's all.
I did find one more thing I wanted to share. I could put it in critical reactions, but I think it's better for behind the scenes and trivia. It's an interview with Bahram Beyzaie where he was discussing cinema, and they were asking specifically about his style of cinema. And he said, perhaps the greatest shortcoming that we have in our country is the absence of a history of the people. The history of the literature and the history of the official people are written by official people. But I want to know how the rest lived. Of course, by quote-unquote people, I do not mean anyone affiliated with a specific political party. It's a very personal kind of conception that I have. And in fact, you may have noted that in my own work, I have been writing a kind of history of these people, a kind of history that has not been told in the official history. I have read, just like you and everybody else, the official history that they gave us at school, for example. I realized that even when I saw a popular drama, they were all related to the ordinary people, the populace. They were not the work of the literati or the prominent artists. Nobody ever hears of these artists. In effect, I wanted to know where these people came from, what their origins were. I was thus gradually drawn to our literary sources, to our mythology, anthropology, and certain ritual performances that were later co-opted into religious rites, things of that sort. I started something with no immediate intention of going in one direction or another, and yet gradually it turned into a kind of genealogical search. That's his fascination with the past. He's really fascinated with the history. He's very fascinated with the mythology of Iranian literature. All right, should we go critical reactions?
Yeah.
The one note I have, and this is kind of sort of dancing around what we were talking about. According to Hamid Dabashi, who wrote the book Close Up Iranian Past, Present, and Future, Beyzaie had become proverbial amongst his Iranian critics for the quote-unquote incomprehensibility of his cinema. And that is precisely the deep-rootedness of these mythological reference in the mind of Iranian audiences. Quoted saying, Beyzaie had thoroughly mastered the active re-mythologication of Iranian culture in order to negotiate a new angle of reality, at once resuscitating and manipulating mythological memory, forcing them to yield to alternative modes of meaning. And basically, he was saying that one of the greatest criticisms amongst people who were watching his films were it's very dense work to watch a Beyzaie film and to understand it. Like I'd mentioned off the top, it requires some second supplementary reading.
Yeah, even just talking to some of my uncles and like people from the baby boomer generation that grew up in Iran, a lot of those like Beyzaie films and I guess movies like that were considered for the academics and the intelligentsia.
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially what we always go back to in our podcast. There was like two major modes of filmmaking in Iran. It was the film Farsi that was supposed to be laid back entertainment, sort of mindless, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And then there was the stuff that, you know, this is the deep, like, you know, there's the active new wave of Iranian filmmakers that were like, we want to make a culture and a very intellectual kind of voice cinematically for our people.
It weirdly almost feels like there wasn't a middle ground for Iranian cinema for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it was either like campy film Farsi for just like quick entertainment or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were designed for people to be able to like come in and out of the theater.
Yeah.
And then there were these academic, but like there was no, like you didn't have like a Scorsese. I know people have said Beyzaie is kind of like a Scorsese, but I would disagree with that. His stuff is like way more scholarly and academic and like deep and poetic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Critical. Okay, let's go to deeper analysis. I'm excited to say a lot of things here about this film now. You want to hear my theory?
Yeah. Hit me.
This is a love triangle story,
Yep.
but not of romance.
Yep.
It's a story about time.
Okay.
So we have three major angles here. The villagers, multiple villagers who love Tara. There's the ghost that loves Tara, and then there's Tara, right? Here's my theory. The ghost represents the mythical past of Iran.
Okay.
The villagers represent the social present. And Tara represents the future, trying to be reborn.
I'm with it.
So, like, if you look at Tara almost like representing Iran,
Yeah.
and I don't even mean like the populace, I mean literally the land that is Iran. But you can include the populace, the citizens, everything.
Yeah.
There are two major factions that are vying for her love.
Okay.
It's this hold on to the past, hold on to your roots, never forget your culture. We want to be a part of you, we want to be with you.
Yeah.
And then there's the social responsibility of like, you got to marry down. You have to be a wife. Your husband has just died. You have to be part of this social structure and this hierarchy.
Yeah.
And Tara is like wavering between all these options and like kind of doesn't really want to choose any of them.
She almost sacrifices her responsibility as a mother for the ghost.
Yes. And which I think represents sacrificing. Well, hold on. Here's what I would say. She said she would sacrifice her own life for the ghost.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
but as long as the children are protected.
Yeah.
She said, I can't do it until I find a proper caregiver for my children.
Yeah. But then she's weirdly like, okay, be right back. I'm going to go find someone to do it.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not subtle. It's very just like we got to get to the next act of the play.
Yeah.
But I mean, think of that as a symbolic gesture of like, I have to make sure the children of Iran are in good hands before I succumb and give myself to the past.
Yeah. Also, to your point of this whole analogy, how the soldier mentions that they were ambushed during a moment of prayer by an army that was waving the book of God over their heads.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty on the nose that he's talking about, like, the Islamic conquest of Iran.
Well, again, and it's another film that came out in 1979, which is obviously noticing that, like, reading the room and reading the internal temperatures. We talked about this in Tall Shadows of the Wind.
Yeah.
These are artists who are recognizing what's happening in the world and they want to comment on it. And of course, Beyzaie is playing on Tazia, which is centuries old playwriting techniques. But he's talking about the stuff he's probably recognizing in society today.
Yeah.
And he's like, let me use the tropes of Tazia plays in a cinematic language to talk about our social woes of today.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started reading this stuff and like kind of putting these pieces together, I was like, oh, this film's actually pretty cool. But I had to do this research to figure it out because in my mind, in my headcanon, this is a metaphor for the multiple angles that are trying to vie for Iran's future. If Tara represents Iran, and especially the fact that she's a woman is important too, right? Because think of how many like limitations have been put on the role of women, especially from 79 onwards.
Yeah.
So it's like she wants to chart her own course, and yet here are 3 or 4 different men from different angles coming at her, being like, "No, choose me. I'm in love with you. Choose me. I'm in love with you."
Yeah, it's
and it's not
almost
talking
like
to the people. It's like they're fighting for the love of Iran to be like, "Let me be your suitor. Let me be the one who's going to tell you what to do."
Yeah.
And that I think is like probably quite accurate to what Beyzaie is doing here.
Yeah.
So the ghost is the mythical past of Iran. The villagers are the social present, and Tara is the future trying to be reborn. She's trying to claim her own identity with the shackles of what the men are trying to put on her. So the ultimate irony, you know how I love putting themes on things.
Yeah.
Is I think that one of the big thematic statements Beyzaie is saying is that these men are saying to Tara, "You're free as long as you choose what we've already chosen for you."
Yeah.
Like, here are your limited choices of freedom we're going to give you, and you're free to make your choice, but these are the choices you've been given.
Yeah.
And Tara, as a character, as an emotional arc, is trying to push back and understand what decision she's going to make. She's being pushed and pulled, which makes it for a film that is not heavy on plot necessarily, but it's an emotional arc. You know, it's like she's trying to figure out what the will of her future is going to be.
Yeah. And then
that's
in
when
the
I was
end,
like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back really quick to the Army of the Dead.
Yeah, go back.
It feels like souls trapped in purgatory.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like your analogy a lot. So working within that framework, what does the sword represent? And how does the return of the sword to them give them the peace that they seek? Right? Because their graves are empty. They're perpetually like stuck in that ocean.
I mean, there's 2 ways to look at it. The sword could simply just be a device to which you're going to be like, hand over. Because not all of them want the sword. Just the one soldier wants the sword.
No, but
the other men want the sword.
The other men sent him to get it. That's why he keeps leaving the sword, is because he's like, well, if I go back with the sword, then my duty is done. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it seems to me like they cannot go to their graves until he reclaims the sword, and they keep sending him to get it. He's like their messenger.
Well, think of it this way. The sword is a battle used for weaponry and war.
Yeah.
So does it represent militaristic might?
Maybe.
Does it represent power? Does it represent...
Right.
Is it a symbol
like the
for
mantle of
leadership?
Of power and leadership? Yeah.
Yeah, like King Arthur's sword again.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, where if she is the land of Iran and the people of Iran, and the sword is the authority.
Yeah.
So who gets granted the authority? Is it classical Iranian culture? Is it these new guys here? Like where's it going? Yeah, I'm with you. What about the horse? We see in multiple scenes. Also, weirdly, the horse is the only part of the like Army of the Dead or whatever that other people see and interact with. Did you notice that? Like, there's that scene where her one suitor goes chasing after the horse.
The horse is covered in blood.
Yeah, and then it disappears again, and it keeps coming and going. But the horse is the only time that anyone else sees something from the past, with the exception of the first guy who she bequeaths the sword to comes back like panicked and returns the sword to her. Because he clearly also saw something.
Well, it's a war horse, right? I mean, it's a battle horse. It's not one for farming or like, it's like literally covered in bloodstains from the battle it's been through, right?
Yeah.
So it's probably another, like, if the modern day citizens are able to see this horse, then it's probably a vestige of people, the echoes of war are still permeating through modern society.
Yeah.
How's that for an answer?
That's great. I know that there's also in the book of Revelation, the pale horse. Isn't that the horse that like that death rides?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess. And it is. So it's a white, for people who haven't seen the film, it's a white horse that's covered in bloodstains. Not its own bloodstains.
Yeah.
In the film. It is. Yeah, it is a white horse.
So it might be like biblical analysis.
This other thing of like Tara representing land and the earth of Iran.
Yeah.
That was also mentioned in Hamid Dabashi's book.
Oh, nice.
And he pulls a quote from a Iranian writer, a film journalist named Shahla Lahiji. And listen to this. The impeccable acting of Susan Taslimi as Tara is the indication of a perfect choice and the remarkable capability of the actor in the cultivation and performance of her role. This capability is evident not only in her acting, but also in her physiognomy. Susan Taslimi, in her wheat-like complexion, elongated nose, set back but penetrating, open and intimidating eyes, which at times have that affectionate look, bony and sculpted cheeks, the wrinkle of power at the side of her mouth, the thin line of thought on her long forehead, her tall stature, and then the authority in her demeanor and speech is the very epiphany of Mother Earth.
Ugh.
That very mythological vision of woman that can very well belong to yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and all the time remain thoroughly woman. So that was written like decades ago by this journalist.
Did that help inform your opinion on your analogy of the film?
No, I read that after.
Oh, cool.
I thought of this and I was like, oh, cool. Confirming what I thought.
Props to you, Kaveh. I have 2 more elements of Farhan's question corner.
Yeah, and I have one more last Hamid Dawashi quote for you at the end.
I'll give you one, then you
About
give
the
me one,
title.
then I'll give you one.
Yeah, great. You go.
The bleeding tree.
Yeah, well, I think, again, I had to mention about that. I think, again, that's just an extension of what we're doing to Iran. They're like, they're mining its resources. It's cutting its trees. The earth is, Iran is bleeding down to its very nature. I think this is a film that is like really engrossing itself to what we're doing to nature.
Yeah.
It like Tara isn't just a woman, a representative of future generations of women. If she is this Mother Earth figure, she is nature, right? There's, okay, like, for example, just going back, there's this one man who loves her and he's like, just take my hand in marriage and like, we'll be fine. And those women, the Islamic women who are got the rusari on and they have their face even covered, they're like weeping and weeping. And then the man
Those are
ends up leaving
ghosts
the
too,
village.
right?
I thought they were people from the village.
Oh, really? I thought that they were like the widows of the soldiers.
No, because they're with one of the other suitors from the town that love her. He's with them. And again, that represents, I think, Islam. But he's like, when he's leaving town, he goes, "You broke us, Tara," as he leaves with the women. And she's like, "On the contrary, I reunited you." And I don't really know what that means, but I think this idea of like, she's trying to unite in Iran from all these people who are like, go this way. No, go this way. Be this person. She's like, no, my lack of decision making isn't because I necessarily can't decide. It's because I don't think what you guys are doing is right for the future of this country. You're tearing us apart.
You're tearing us apart, Lisa.
You're tearing us apart, Lisa. But she's like, the bleeding tree is all of that. It's like, you're destroying this country. You're destroying this history. You're destroying this earth.
Yeah. Also, one of the few times that the villagers are able to discern the ghosts or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they're able to see or feel hints of the past.
Yeah. And then again, like Hamid Dawashi talks about how Beyzaie does this really intricate, like the mix of mythological Iranian past with modern day aesthetics of like modern day, talking about social commentary with the modern day, right?
Yeah.
And when he talks about how like his films were considered impenetrable and incomprehensible, he refers to the specific wording of the title of Ballad of Tara, which is why it said a different thing than what you had said. Beyzaie chose the archaic word cherike for the title, not in a vain search for authenticity, but in order to shock the familiar with the unknown, the comfortable with the mysterious, the overtly remembered with the actively forgotten. So he's saying this is like a very archaic use of this term for ballad. These are all ways of alienating the world to its audience. Other words like asture, hikayat, afsane, or qese, they would have equally conveyed the same sense of a ballad. But what cherike does is to force a lazy audience to pause and ponder, to dwell on the unknown, to distance itself from the habitual, even to trust the received definition and location of our place in the language we call home. So like, even the title is deliberately historic. You get what I mean?
Yeah, a couple other translations I found. In a literal sense, it's a sudden, small-scale armed attack.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
It's also in politics and military, it's used as like another word for guerrilla war tactics, or like a guerrilla war, guerrilla attack. And then more nuanced definitions include resistance, uprising, or coup.
Oh, interesting.
So I wonder if in the context of storytelling, if there's a word for an epic, you know what I mean? Like an epic or a storytelling version of a coup. You know what I mean? Like we just don't have a word for it in English.
Yeah.
I think the closest would probably be an epic.
Yeah. The Epic of Tara would work very well.
I think that almost fits better than Ballad of Tara.
Yeah. Epic feels like it's been, I mean, this is not the way he was thinking in 1979, but ballad still, even to this day, feels more foreign than epic. Like it's less commonly used. And I don't even mean that from like a the slang term of "yo man," that's epic.
yeah.
But I just feel like a ballad is still generally used less.
Well, and ballads are usually like romantic, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you think of like Shakespeare and like and
But that's what
poetry.
I mean. This is a romance story. It's about like suitors coming for the love of this woman.
It is, but the original title of the film isn't talking about this like romantic plot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I feel like Epic or Uprising, like one of those might be a little more fitting. But I mean, we've talked about how a lot of times these films will get weird translated titles.
yeah.
In some cases, they get two titles for their movies. So my last question corner was, why do you think she wanted to keep the sword in the end? Because I thought for sure if the guys didn't take it, then she would abandon the sword. It does kind of play back into what you said allegorically about how the sword might represent like, okay, these are like the keys to the future of Iran, and she bequeaths it to her new husband. But what were your thoughts?
I have my own question corners. I kind of don't understand why in the end she just accepts to marry that guy.
Yeah,
She just chooses like she first chose the ghost
yeah,
and tries to end up like I'll die for you to be with you or whatever.
yeah,
And then when like she can't do that, she like stabs the waves a bunch of times with her sword.
yeah.
And then gives up. And the other guy she goes, okay, when will we get married? I'm like, what? Where did that come from? Like, why? So you chose him?
Yeah, it's like
And I
it's
don't know
like,
if
well,
that's-
I guess if I'm not going to marry the ghost, I have to marry this guy.
Well, and so here's the thing I wonder, or maybe I'm reading too much into this, but she chooses the social present,
Yeah.
right? She
Yeah, yeah,
chooses
yeah.
the guy that represents the now, the villager that's like going to have her conform to modern day roles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're going to be the wife. And is that Beyzaie commenting on where Iran was going? We're like, this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
And maybe like by doing that, she's giving him the sword and maybe it's like a tragic ending or maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
she relinquishing it to him and being like, okay, like let's do what we need to do for the future of Iran or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I don't have a direct answer. This is a dense piece of art with many interpretations, which are all equally valid. I think that's the point of art,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I would love to see a remaster of this, and I think that the film would do very well with maybe revisited subtitles by a group of like Iranian academics who are also
Scientists.
Like,
Yeah. Best scene. One of my favorite scenes. I put this in my best, but there was a lot of really great scenes.
so
There's a showdown towards the end where the brother-in-law has her kids.
mhm.
He's like watching over his children,
Yeah.
and they're discussing the plans for the future. And he's like, Tara, like come to me, like come towards me. And she stares him in the eye and she goes, "I'd rather we keep our distance."
Yeah.
And in that moment, because I had started reading some of the notes, and I'd kind of come to this idea of like, if this is modern day Iran, she's telling the social presence, like Beyzai's putting the language of that into it, which like, I'd rather we keep our distance.
Yeah.
Think of that in 1979.
Yeah.
Iran,
Yeah.
saying if this man who's trying to conform her into like modern Iranian woman role of like domestic servitude,
Yeah.
she's standing defiantly and being like, I'd rather not.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
And
that-
it was almost like a play on words too, like the way that he's like close the gap between us, and she's like,
Exactly.
I'd rather keep the gap open, or like something like that.
Yeah. He's literally saying it, talking about the physical distance between them,
Yeah.
but she's talking about it as in like, yes, not just the physical distance, but also I think that
Yeah.
we need this separation.
Yeah, it's
But
clever.
I really like that scene. I thought that was cool. So that was for me my best scene.
That was really good. My best scene, I think it's the scene right after that, or like two scenes later, where she's by the fortress,
Mhm.
like she's outside the walls of the fortress by the ocean,
Mhm.
and it's the first time that the soldier is really like giving this whole like soliloquy in history of like their
yes.
soldiers and his
Yeah.
love for her and all this stuff, right? And there's multiple instances where the camera is just like moving across the landscape.
Mm-hmm.
And she appears multiple times in the shot without the shot cutting. I had to like go back and watch it because I was like, how the hell did he do that? Where it's like the camera like passes by her and it's like following the
Yeah.
soldier in the background
Yeah.
as he's like walking and talking. She's in the foreground. The camera passes by her. So now she's no longer in the shot, right?
Yeah.
The camera keeps following the soldier. And then as the camera starts moving, she reappears in the shot in the background.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
how the hell? I had to like go back and
That is
watch
cool.
it. Technically speaking, what they probably did was whenever the camera would like clear one of them, they would probably like sprint
Sprint to the other
around the
side, yeah,
camera
yeah.
and like get in position on
Yeah.
the other side. But like these were the examples of moments in the film that I was like, he's not just filming a play. he is fully taking advantage of film as a medium, and I think it was done really well here.
Yeah, that's a good call. Damn, that's poetry. I have 2.
I also have 2. What are your timestamps for yours?
I will say this too. This was kind of my best scene. Also could have fit into Damn That's Poetry because the other way I'd written it was she goes, "I'd rather keep our distance." She said, "I'd rather see you from afar."
Yeah.
Was actually a more accurate thing. So, anyways, but I have 2 different ones. How many do you have?
You give your runner-up. I'll give my runner-up. I have 2 as well.
Okay.
You give your runner-up. I'll give my runner-up. Then you give your main one, and I'll give my main one.
Okay. My runner-up is, "Where are my people to witness the disgrace of their heroes?" Which is what the soldier says to her. And I think when you think of the representation of what that means, of someone from the past who's arrived in the present day, he's like, where are my people to witness the disgrace of their heroes? The heroes have fallen so far. I thought, damn, as you would say, Farn, bars.
Bars. Everything the soldier says is bars, man.
Yeah, it's bars. Bars on bars. What's your runner-up?
My runner-up is, tell the enemy to rain 1,000 arrows upon my body, that I might escape the arrows of your piercing gaze.
به دشمن بگو 1000 زخم دیگرم بزند. باکی ندارم اگر مرا از تیرهایی برهاند که دیدگان این زن پرتاب میکنند.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. I did have that one right
now. I was like, yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, he's a romantic dude, man.
Yeah.
There was another thing he talks about how he's like, you torture me, you torture my head, you torture my this and that, but like he's like kind of talking about how in love with her he is. It's so good. Yeah. My number one quote.
Yeah.
She says, after a long kind of battle with trying to choose between what she's gonna do and she's chasing the horse.
Yeah.
At one point she pauses and she goes, "Hear that? The silence. It's like everything is finished."
خوب گوش بده. ساکت نیست. مثل اینکه همه چی تموم شده.
And that to me felt oddly and eerily reminiscent of what people were probably experiencing at the time.
Yeah.
Think of that.
Yeah.
The silence. It's like everything is finished.
Yeah.
This is 1979 or on. That's it. That's my number one. What's your number one?
My number one is, it's from the same scene as my favorite scene. It's just the beginning of the scene. The soldier, again, says, I left, but the thought of you keeps reeling me back. You're like a chain. This land is a hypnotic aroma. You're like an anchor which keeps a ship from capsizing, but it also keeps it from moving freely. Do better by me. And then she responds, I'll do worse by you.
من رفتم ولی فکر تو مرا برمیگرداند مثل زنجیری. این بوی خاک است که مرا پس میکشد. لنگری است به پای زورق بسته، نه فرو میکشد نه آزاد میکند. با من بهتر از این کن.
با تو بدتر از این میکنم.
Oh, damn, that's poetry. That's a good one, Farn. Good job.
I didn't
Which
write it.
language did you interpret that in? Did you understand that in Farsi, read it in French, or digest it in English?
That was one of those ones that I was like confused by getting bombarded with all three. Yeah. So I went back and I listened to it just in Persian, and then I was able to like come up with my own translation.
Best performance. I think it's a no-brainer here. Susan Taslimi.
Interesting. Maybe not a no-brainer, because I said Manucher Farid.
Right. He is good. He's very good too, I guess. I just think like everything. I started thinking about her as the Mother Earth character and how she kind of her again. Like it's not just a performance, but her like embodiment, her physicality of it, the eyes, the stares, the strength in her character.
Yeah.
She's really badass in this. So I just
she is
really
She's awesome.
Okay, cool.
I kept going back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah.
But I think part of why I gave it to Manucher Farid was like I mentioned earlier that I wasn't sure if it was actually his voice. And so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that it is his voice, which makes me want to give it to him more because he's like almost unrecognizable except for his face.
Festival of Cons. My two biggest ones are, again, it doesn't really get very interested in being carried by a plot. Mm-hmm. It's more vibes and an emotional journey.
Yeah.
A very internal emotional journey for Tara.
Down to not ironing out the specifics of things, right? Like he's immediately
he's
like...
not interested in that.
Yeah, he's like immediately like, you know what? I'm in love with you. And then later she's like, I bet. Let me go give my kids away.
Yeah, exactly. And also, again, this is not the thing of the film. I just think like we need, like you're saying, the restoration. Because I think quality will really greatly impact someone's enjoyment of the film.
Yeah.
Like we experienced with Stranger in the Fog.
Yeah. I think there's also an opportunity there with a restoration that like the sound mix on this movie is not good.
Yeah.
Like I don't just mean the fact that like the version that we have is low quality, but like even the original sound, like you can tell there's decisions that are made with the sound mix that probably just because of resources available to him at the time are not good. You can hear the difference in quality for recordings from like one location versus another, or he uses weird sound effects at times. There's a point where you see a rabid dog running at her on the beach, and it
Yeah.
uses the sound of a leopard. Like it like goes
Yeah,
back and
yeah,
forth. It's like a
yeah.
leopard, and then it's like a badger, and then there's like the sound of a dog. Like
Yeah.
it's just whatever sound effects library they had, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
whenever this movie gets a remaster, maybe keep the original mix as like mono original mix on like track 2. So if people want, they can switch it on. But
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
Yeah, I think
Whatever you just said.
yeah, definitely this movie is in need of like a remastered sound mix. The only other real con I have is her fight against the ocean was a little long.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
It's like 6 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. She fights the waves. Double feature lineup for me, I would just do Stranger in the Fog.
Yeah. Yeah, same.
Like you said, the BCU.
Yeah,
Iranian
BCU.
cinema. Beyzaie Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
So Hollywood remake, would you do one? Why not? If so, how? I don't think so, except do the restoration.
I surprisingly said that I would love to see a Hollywood remake of this.
Cool. That is surprising.
I think ideally, yeah, give it to an Iranian filmmaker, but I would love to see it done with like the scale and the budget of like a Lord of the Rings. Like I think it would make a really cool movie. It doesn't even need to be in Persian. Like it can still be in English.
Mm-hmm. Final thoughts and grades. Here we are, Farn. It happens. It comes at us so quickly.
Yeah.
I give this. I am on the ropes, but I do want to say I give this a B minus minus. I don't recommend this film for everyone, and it's not even top tier Beyzaie for me. But what he does as a filmmaker is so unique and important that this cannot be lower than a high C or low B for me. I think once I'd done the research and I was able to penetrate through what I think a lot of what he's trying to get at is there, whether that's just my interpretation or it is really what he was trying to do.
Yep.
I came to understand a greater appreciation for the film. And so I give it a B minus minus. I don't quite remember what I gave Boshu or Downpour. I think I gave them quite high. I think I gave them both A. Stranger in the Fog, I think so too.
Stranger in the Fog, you gave an A minus. I also gave it an A minus.
Boshu, I gave it an A, I think.
Boshu, yeah, you gave it an A. I gave it a C.
Yeah. And Downpour, I gave for sure like an A or A plus, I think.
You gave it an A plus. I gave it a B minus.
So I give this a B minus minus, which is still good, but it's the lowest Beyzaie for me.
Okay. I actually really like the film. I think that it was definitely hard for me to follow at times, especially because the language being used is very poetic and it's very classical. But what I was able to discern from the 3 languages that were being hurled at my face simultaneously, I did really like it. And I would love to see a remaster of it. I feel like my grade of the film might get bumped up rewatching it with a remaster. I was on the fence between an A minus minus and a B plus plus, but I think ultimately it's sitting in like a firm B plus plus for me, which means that the Cinema Rex show average for Ballad of Tara is a B.
Great. That's really good. I wanted to say, I actually should have thrown this in the behind the scenes in trivia, but he shot this in a region called Tavalish, or also known as Talish, which is like a historical region of indigenous people of southwestern Caspian Sea area. And it's spanning parts of modern day Iran and Azerbaijan. But what I think is interesting about the fact that he shot this there is he did this with Stranger in the Fog too, is he doesn't like the stories don't take place in a city or village that is known. It's always like it could be anywhere Iran, right? He never names the villages, but he did shoot this in Tavalish.
Cool, dude. Very cool.
Ballad of Tara is a romantic tale that takes place in the far-flung locales that seem to merge history and dream. Personal destiny and collective passion, shaped with a mix of theatrical suggestiveness and Hitchcockian precision. In it, Bahram Beyzaie explores the undercurrent of myth in Iranian life, not as nostalgia, but as something still breathing beneath the surface of the present. By resurrecting the myth, Beyzaie in effect creates the visual sight of a ritual, a clear sign of his lifelong dedication to and fascination with Tazia, yet he never allows that ritual to harden into relic. No other filmmaker had this kind of command over scenes so deeply rooted in Iranian visual memory, or could pull it off without collapsing into the museumization of culture. Beyzaie was no museum curator. He was the puppeteer of our forgotten memories, reminding us that myth is not something behind glass, but something we are still performing, still resisting, still rewriting. Rest in peace to a legend. Thank you very much, Farhan, for joining us on this podcast journey through time.
Thank you, Kaveh, for having me. It was a pleasure being on the renowned podcast that is Cinema Rex.
Thank you, Kaveh, for having Farhan on as a guest. To all our listeners, thank you for listening in. Follow us on Cinema Rex Podcast.
Also, shout out
Instagram.
to the protesters in Iran right now.
Yeah, go, go, go. Save your country for yourselves.
Rah, rah, revolution.
To everyone else, Be'omid Didar.
Bye. Music for Cinema Rex was written and performed by Sohail Sadinejad.